show Daddy how to do this so he can be a bath man.
If 5-day-old Kayla is lucky, her father and mother will care for her together for the next 20 years.
Okay, you feel confident enough to pick her up and put her on the towel?
Yep.
Okay, we'll just lay her across this way. Head up.
But there's a 1 in 3 chance that the parents of a baby born today will separate before it reaches adulthood. More than 1 million Australian children now live in separated households, while one parent pays the other to help support them, or ought to pay, which, as maternity ward nurse Margaret Tuckerman knows from her own experience, is not the same thing at all.
When he got his first assessment from the Child Support Agency, he just went, rip, nah, I'm not paying that much.
But proliferating fathers groups complain bitterly about the Child Support Agency and the system it administers.
At any time they can come in and grab what they want, do what they want, garnish what they want, and I have no control. I have no personal life.
And they found sympathetic ears in Parliament.
It's not working. It's time we looked at it. It's time we reviewed it. Because this is not about parents. This is about children. And I think we've lost sight of the fact that this is our children, and it's become a tug-of-war between adults. And that's not very pretty.
The child support system has been reviewed. Tomorrow, the government will release the report of a task force that'll recommend radical changes. On Four Corners tonight, how do we go about costing the children?
Will you take your partners for the Velita Waltz?
Back in 1974, when Four Corners reported on the need for divorce law reform, "Till death us do part" really meant something. Men died younger than women, so widows outnumbered married couples at the Burwood Senior Citizens Centre in Sydney. But back then, only 1 in 10 marriages ended in divorce.
It's companionship and being told off, you know.
Home life and
home life.
naturalness.
Naturalness. That's, we're together. We've got our TV and our radios, and we've got our cat and our dog, and that's it.
And a few days later, there was a grand wedding in the garden of the palace, to which everyone from miles around came.
Then in 1975 came no-fault divorce. The rate of marriage failures soared, and so did the cost to the taxpayer of supporting hundreds of thousands of divorced women and their children.
By 1990, no Australian child will be living in poverty.
It was one of the most derided pledges in recent political history. But part of Bob Hawke's strategy to counter child poverty was the tough new child support scheme.
Okay, you want a pension?
It was set up in 1988 to tackle the fact that only a fraction of non-custodial parents were paying the child maintenance the courts had ordered.
Are you paying or receiving maintenance?
Yet for almost half of Australia's separated mothers in 2005, not much has changed. Char Richardson's marriage split up 5 months ago. If she and her 3 kids are getting by, it's thanks to the fact that taxpayer assistance to single parents has increased steadily in the past 15 years.
We get family tax benefit A and B, sole parent pension, and we also get things like pharmaceutical benefit and rent assistance as well. It altogether amounts to about $900 a fortnight for 3 children, and out of that I pay $400 rent, and after that obviously there's not a lot left for day-to-day expenses, groceries, petrol, things like that.
I can read the newspaper.
Like at the end of the fortnight we're on our last few dollars, but you know, we are surviving.
Here she is.
It's not thanks to the child support system. So far, Char Richardson has received just a single payment of $5 from her ex-husband.
$5 for 3 kids, not each, $5 for 3 kids. Even now, apparently he is working. He's been not telling CSA of his situation. Really, they don't do a lot, you know, they process things, but it's up to the ex and it's up to the, you know, the single mother or the single parent to be the one who's providing the information.
The Child Support Agency, or CSA, employs 2,500 public servants with wide-ranging powers to freeze bank accounts and garnish wages. Yet an astonishing 40% of non-resident parents pay the rock-bottom minimum of $5 a week in child support or less. Even for one child, says Charles Richardson, that is a mere token.
Going by what my eldest goes through, I mean, even $5 a week just wouldn't make a tiny bit of difference at all.
A lot of parents who are with the Child Support Agency had a low income when the families were together. They have a low income once the families separate. That's one of the realities.
Yet it's not desperate single mothers who are calling for reform of the child support system. It's the fathers' groups that are springing up around the country and claim it's stacked against them. By 7:30 on a winter evening, the town of Maryborough on Queensland's Fraser Coast is almost asleep. The only action on Bazaar Street is the gathering of half a dozen men for a meeting of a local branch of Dads in Distress. The movement's founder, Tony Miller, has driven up from Coffs Harbour, 7 hours to the south.
The system that they're trying to bring in, hopefully, will be a fairer system. We don't know yet. We haven't seen it.
Most of these men claim they are paying their share of child support and more. But the system seems to them arbitrary, illogical and unfair.
I have my daughter 50-50 and I just don't understand why I have to pay child maintenance to my ex-wife when she's repartnered.
Well, I've got 2 children living with me and she's got 1 living with her. And I've still got to pay 32% for that one child that's not living with me, even though I have got 2 living with me.
I was paying maintenance to who I thought was the grandmother, because grandmother had custody of the children, yet the maintenance was going to the mother all the time.
The biggest problem, says Tony Miller, is the sheer proportion of their take-home pay that the current formula demands.
Most men are meeting their responsibilities, they're just finding it tough to in a lot of cases, you know, the formula just isn't working. You know, when it's taken out of gross income rather than net, it's a struggle for a lot of guys.
The formula applied by the Child Support Agency allows the paying parent, usually the father, to set aside $13,500 a year from his gross taxable income as a minimum living wage.
It then applies a percentage to the amount that's left based on the number of children. And this is 18% for one child, 27% for 2 children, and up to 36% if there are 5 or more children.
The formula's calculated on gross income, but paid out of net. And that, claim the fathers' groups, frequently plunges paying parents on average incomes into abject poverty. And it's not hard to find examples. Paul Darville is 50. He earns a better than average wage, yet rents a single room in Sydney's western suburbs, has no car, no assets, and withdraws all his wages in cash each fortnight in case the CSA garnishes his bank account, as it's done once before.
I was so embarrassed and humiliated. So I rang up the Child Support Agency and I got on to an officer. I said, look, I'm not sure what's going on. Can you explain it to me? You've got a debt. You've got a commitment to make and you're not making it, so we've seized your account. I said, but that's the money I live on. That's the money that puts the food in my mouth and puts the roof over me. Too bad. Go to St Vinny's. They'll help you.
Now, every fortnight, Paul Darville's first stop after the bank is the post office, where he pays over $450 in cash to support 2 children he's not even sure are his.
One child of